The other thing I was thinking about, right, was so I was talking to you earlier because I know you love to talk about like horror films and stuff like that, and we talk
Mm-hmm.
about that time to time. And I have a special place these days for horror films, because I feel like that horror is the genre
Oh, I
where
think we found out what that is.
horror is the genre where I feel like a director can really
Experiment.
experiment. Not only that, but also kind of, get exposure. Like a first-time director can make a horror film, have it do really well, and that's their leg into Hollywood to where they can make more films like they want, right? I don't feel like that's really possible with other genres, at least today. It's really hard for you to make a successful film in theaters that's like got no named attachment to it, no name actors, like everything's got to have something behind it
Feels very
to get
homegrown.
production behind it. Yeah, like budget. And I feel like horror is the one genre where it's like if it looks good enough, the trailer, people will go see it because people love seeing a scary movie. So the director, I'm all getting to a point with this. The director of a really solid horror movie that I like came out a couple years ago called Barbarian. The director of that, his name is Zach Krieger, which I actually know him from something else. When I was a kid, I watched this show. It was a sketch comedy show called The Whitest Kids You Know, and I fucking loved it. It was a great fucking sketch comedy show, and he was one of the writers and actors in that show. Fuck me. And his directorial debut was Barbarian,
Okay.
and I recently just rewatched that and thought it was really solid. But he's got another film coming out later this year called Weapons, which I didn't know about. I was like, damn, that's cool as fuck. And the trailer does look really good to that. So I might actually go see that in theaters if you'd be down.
Yeah, absolutely. I love horror.
But he's also confirmed to be at the helm of a Resident Evil film.
Ooh. Okay.
So, and with that in mind, after watching Barbarian, I was like, I really like a lot of the shot ideas, the way he builds tension in tight corridors and stuff like that, like the games are. He does that in his film Barbarian. And there were certain spots watching that film where I was like, this guy could actually cook with a Resident Evil film if it's done right. But I'm still on the fence when it comes to like being hyped for a movie, because I think I've said this before in the past, but I feel like the overall story, if you're going to follow the story of these games, I feel like the overall story
Better for a show.
would work better as a show. Do you think not?
I think most things work better as a show.
I think if you did a season for every game, I think that would be better than... Oh, shit.
Nice, good catch.
Nope.
Yeah, I think most things work better as a show.
Oh, shit.
In my eyes. Because you just get to like steep in things a little bit more, a little bit longer. And it's very rare that that doesn't benefit whatever thing that you're in.
You have more time to flesh out everything you're trying to say. Like, if like, I just I tried watching the other day Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City, which was the last time they tried to reboot the films. And set designs look great. The way the movie kind of starts out is also great. Like, there's things to be like, you know what? That's actually a lot more impressive than I was expecting. But the problem is they try to jam too much into that movie of the games. Like, it's trying to follow the games to an extent, but they tried jamming like Resident Evil 1 and 2 into one movie that's like an hour and a half long. I'm like, dude, this was set up for failure off the rip. There's too much going on here for one movie. You don't have enough time with these characters to actually like flesh them out like the games do. And I just think video game media in general just works better in the sense of a show, because games are saying so much within the time that you're playing them, you know?
Yeah, like if you want to include every little thing, you have to like dust over some details that like things get like swept over. You still got one coming. Nice, good catch. Yeah, things get brushed over a little bit because of that, and that's what I'm a little bit worried about with Superman as well. It's still beaten. You have a knife?
There's no way this thing is fucking...
Just give it a little pot shot. Okay, you're straight. Yeah, that's what I'm a little worried about with Superman. Just they might be cramming too much into the movie, yet to be determined. But staying on the topic of Resident Evil and horror, um, mm, I mean, as far as like your initial question or like initial pitch of like horror is like given more of a chance to like just let shit happen or just like experiment. That's true because like you can make a decent or quality horror film with very minimal budget.
Right, and there's a lot of creative freedom there, and there's just as far as like success too,
It doesn't feel like there's a lot of rules.
there's not a lot of rules, but as far as like Hollywood and like what gets greenlit for production these days, there's a lot more room for success for just some random fucking title that no one's ever heard of, like Barbarian, to
Yeah.
make money, you know? I mean, like, do you think that guy, Zach Krieger, would have ever been given the fucking green light to direct a Resident Evil movie had Barbarian not been a success? No shot. That's why I'm saying. They, like, Capcom saw that movie and was like, this guy could make a Resident Evil movie. And now this guy's got his career laid out in front of him, potentially, if he does well, you know? Like, if Resident Evil turns out to be a good movie, and that's another reason why I think the movie might be good, is because if I were that guy, right, and I just made Barbarian, now I have a flagship fucking one of the most successful video game franchises of all time. The title alone, Resident Evil, will get people in the theater to go see it. I have that in the palm of my hand. Wouldn't you want to cook a great film with that? Because that's not only going to make you look great, but it might give you green light on the next movie to make even more money. Like, we're talking like success laid out in front of you potentially. So if I were that guy, I think it's a good move for Capcom to give that guy a shot at making a Resident Evil movie, because that guy can use that as basically his opportunity to get a leg up in the industry.
Well, I also feel like that it's a lot like gaming, like the generalization of horror is a lot like gaming in that sense, or like everything else is, I should say, where like the things that, no, how do I put this, there isn't a lot attached to like horror conceptually, like as far as like things like intellectual properties that already exist. That's why, like, you know, so for games that are coming out, like, yeah, we're getting a little oversaturation with, like, oh, God, like, another Resident Evil or another Final Fantasy or another this. Like, how come companies aren't making things, like, new? And it's because, like, it's a safe approach. Horror doesn't have a pre-existing safe approach. Like, they do have established titles, but those established titles are, like historic titles. Like, it's the same thing as like getting like a new Halloween or a new Friday the 13th or something like that.
Right.
That era is kind of like well and gone, and they'll have the occasional like, oh, like here's a new one, but it's pretty few and far between.
Right.
Whereas like the movie industry now is like, all right, what's popular in movies? Well, you know, there's this pre-established IP called Dune. Like, we could experiment with that, and that ended up being quite popular. Or that's why they're hitting the Star Wars button, or that's why they're hitting the Marvel button. Horror doesn't have those same kind of rules. I feel like that is the reason why there's like such room to experiment. But also, like, you know, indie horror exists where it's just like, okay, this doesn't have to come out on the big screen. Like, this could just be like a little passion project
Right.
for me and my friends. And because horror is so accessible in that way, with like needing very little budget to get a product done and out, like there can be that level of experimentation. Like, as soon as Mickey Mouse's what's it called? As soon as Mickey Mouse's intellectual property hit, like it became public domain, there was a Mickey Mouse movie,
Right.
a horror movie.
Right.
As soon as Popeye the Sailor Man's, I literally just said it, his IP hit public domain,
Right.
Popeye the Sailor Man got a horror movie. Like, and it's just like, dude, yeah, fuck it, throw it out there. Horror is cool and unique because people are just willing to throw shit at the wall, and that's sick.
You know how the saying goes, it's like it's easier to make $100,000 than it is to make your first $100,000 than it is to make your first $10,000, because you can turn that money and keep investing it, right?
Sure.
It's like if from $0 to $10,000 is arguably harder to get than it would be to say from $10,000 to $100,000, because it's a snowball effect. Once you have money, it's easier to reinvest that money. That's why horror is so profitable. It's because you can go in with such little amount of money and come out of it with such a huge gain, right? And that's the issue with Hollywood today, is that and not even Hollywood, the video game industry is now just as guilty of that. The more money that is involved in something, the less risk you're willing to put into it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing that made the golden age of gaming so great, like that PS2. And even though I think the console itself is shitty, but those games on the PS3 were so great, and why those games are still either being remade today or resold today, it's because you have the risk factor. Like, developers could like make something that they're like, we thought this was cool, we'll see if it fucking sticks, you know? And today it's like you have to make a Resident Evil 9 in order for, you know, to get some sort of a profit back on that game. And I'm not saying that I'm against the idea of a new Resident Evil. I love Resident Evil. It's a great franchise and they're doing great with it. That's not my point. I'm just throwing that out as an example. Like, but it's happening with everything. Like, that's why there's a Call of Duty Black Ops 7 coming out this year. That's my point, you know? It's like, because Black Ops sells, dude. Like,
well, and that's why indie is doing so well right now. Like, I feel like the indie market is doing like exceptional at the moment.
mm-hmm.
Where like I'm showing you some indie games, like, and like, you know, I finally got you to sit down. I was like, oh, hey, try this Balatro game. But even more than that, which I am obsessed with Balatro, like, it's just a great game to play in, like, passing time when you don't know what to play.
Yeah, but that game actually does seem hella cool.
Apart from that, like, I showed you, I pointed you in the direction of Ultra Kill, and then I pointed you in the direction of some other boomer shooters called Forgive Me Father 1 and 2, and you kind of pointed me in the direction of boomer shooters as a genre. It's like, oh, hey, like, mess around with some of these games, and I ended up really getting into it with Doom and now Ultra Kill, and you know, take away the shooter part, but Ghost Runner 1 and 2, I really enjoyed those games. Those are essentially boomer shooters, but you have a katana.
Oh, what the fuck am I supposed to do about that?
Your best, I guess.
Yeah, I guess fuck me, right?
You got the flamethrower, or whatever it is.
Oh yeah, that's right. Fucking sack of shit.
Bitch. Eat my nuts. But what drew me to Ultra Kill was actually a tweet from the developer where someone was like, someone originally tweeted is like, oh, I love pirating games, and then they showed like Ultra Kill that they're pirating, and then the developer responded to that as like, it's like, oh, hey, if you can't afford to like buy our game, like I'm like just as guilty of pirating games when like I didn't have any money or anything like that. So yeah, if you can't afford it, pirate it, whatever.
Play the game.
Yeah, I'm like, as long as you're playing and enjoying our game, like that's what really matters. I'm like, W developer, like,
dude, like,
and that, like, yeah, that's an indie dev, and I'm like, oh, dude, because the dev was like that, I'm like, oh yeah, I'll fucking gladly pay for your game.
Right, it's almost like fucking reverse psychology in a way, right?
Exactly.
Son of a bitch. This guy was waiting around the corner, didn't make a single fucking sound.
Yeah, you think with that high-vis vest, he'd be a little bit more,
Yeah, where are you on that, OSHA?
What the fuck, dude?
Okay, we're gonna go back up. Now we're gonna do this puzzle.
Let's do it.
But I mean, I'm excited for Resident Evil movie. That'll be cool. I think, you know, Resident Evil has a huge potential in the horror genre to be a massive success. We've seen other games in that like kind of same vein have success with The Last of Us season 1 at least. We won't have to. There is no season 2. There is no second game.
The Chopped of Us,
bro. That's probably the most disappointed I've been with a video game in a long time was that second game. I didn't even bother with the show. I really didn't like the story, at least, of Last of Us 2. I think everything gameplay-wise was really solid, actually. But that's not really the reason I play those games. You know, not to make this all about Last of Us, but my point bringing that up was that there's potential, right? There's potential to do something successful. Yeah.
Whereas like before, which is like really funny, where it's like if you attempted to approach the entertainment market with a video game IP, whether that be a movie or like a show or something like that, it was like committing suicide.
Oh yeah. And that's the thing I think is going on with Hollywood right now is that like they made so much money off these superhero movies because they had a huge IP and they were guaranteed for success for a long time, right? And now we're kind of on the downhill of that, right? We're starting to see that superhero movies are not making that much money anymore. So I think Hollywood's like kind of desperate and like just kind of like, what can we do to keep making this kind of money? Like, what other IPs do we have? You know, what are you have any ideas? It's like, well, video games are, you know, insanely popular right now, arguably more profitable than movies right now. Why don't we just start making video game movies again? All right. Yeah, well, let's get a hold of them and see if we can make a movie out of that. I think that's kind of what's happening right now, which is shitty to think. But with that being said, there's still potential for artists out there and directors out there that are truly passionate about these games to make something good. Even though the big wigs and the suit and tie motherfuckers that are only looking at it to make money are doing it purely for that, I do think the artists that make these films and make these shows have the potential to actually do justice by these games they grew up making. Like Zach Krieger, for example, he actually is a big fan of Resident Evil. Like, I think he's in his mid-30s, so I was thinking about, I was like, okay, that makes sense. He probably played Resident Evil as a kid. And like interviews with him, people were asking him like what, how would your approach to a Resident Evil movie be? And he's like, in almost every Resident Evil game, you're in a situation where a character will look down like a dark, tight corridor, not really knowing what's on the other side of that, and being left there with like limited ammo and weaponry. And that kind of feeling that you get as the player in that situation is exactly the feeling I want to capture in my film. And I was like, dude, all right. Even if you're not following the game verbatim, as long as you understand what Resident Evil is trying to be, at least in its early days, because you're making the first Resident Evil movie, right? So it'd be back in the early days of Resident Evil. If you're understanding what the game fundamentally is trying to do to the player or trying to invoke in you as you play it, that's exactly the type of person you need helming the film. So that's why I'm still cautiously optimistic, but just cautiously because I'm like, as far as expanding beyond one film, I feel like it's going to be easier to tackle that as a show.
Yeah, you have to come at and before I help you tear through this, like you have to approach almost everything with like a little bit of trepidation. But with that said though, ironically enough, because the market of like gaming and entertainment as a whole is kind of reeling, there's kind of not, and this is aiding to what you're saying a little bit, there's kind of not a better time to get into it from the ground up level, where it's just like, oh, all right, there's no good movies right now, there's no good shows right now because everything is shit and like superficial corporate bubblegum garbage,
just churning out shit. Yeah,
I'm like, oh, all right, fuck it, I'll try to make some. Might as well try to dip your toes in like into the scene. And I say that with everything. Where like if someone is of the mind where it's like, damn, I really want to get into this thing, like, you know, let's say like you for yourself is like, I want to start producing music at a higher level, or someone's like, oh damn, I want to get into coding, or someone's like, oh damn, I want to get like into drawing or art or whatever, anything. The best time to start is 10 years ago. The second best time to start is right now.
Right now. Yeah, I saw you like reposted a tweet or something like that, right?
I said that.
Or you said that?
Yeah, I commented on someone's.
Oh, you commented that? Oh shit!
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say I saw that post that you did. Yeah, that's definitely very true.
So please, like, if you're passionate about something, jump in head first.
Just do it. Yeah.
But let me help you.
Please do. So this is the bishop and the rook. Wait, let me read. Yeah, what did it say?
I got you, buddy. Pretty sure the rook and knight are on the same wall, and the bishop and queen aren't next to each other. The queen and rook were opposite of each other, too.
Queen and rook were
Rook and
opposite.
knight. So the pawn is obviously there.
Queen would go here then, I think. Is that the queen? No. And, okay, so read that again.
Pretty sure the rook and knight are on the same wall. The bishop and queen aren't next to each other. So the bishop cannot be on the pawn wall. So it'll be the bishop, rook, and knight on the same wall together. So the knight's right there. Pretty sure
The queen's got to go here.
rook and knight are on the same wall.
Or no. The that's got to go there.
Mm-hmm.
And then that means this has probably got to go.
Yep, the bishop is on that same wall.
Got to go over here, right?
The queen and rook were opposite of each other too. So the queen is actually in the middle.
Read it from the top.
So pretty sure the rook and knight are on
Solved it.
there you go.
All right.
And I think that's maybe where we wrap things up.
All right. Yeah, let me get to typewriter. We'll just save right here.
Because I think we'll have a direct beeline to where we need to go next.
Yeah.
And I think this was a really lovely recording session. It was very jam-packed with, everything. So I do want to thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys want to see more, check out the rest of the channel. We have a lot of good stuff that has already happened, but also is going to be on the way in the near future. And if you want to help us out, you guys can absolutely check out this guy at CodeMeisterP or CodeMeister_P, depending on where you're looking. He's got Twitch, SoundCloud. He's got everything under the sun. So, look it up. You might be able to find him on there, and definitely support his TikTok as well. He's doing a lot of musical things and elements on there, and you should support him.
Also, if you guys kind of like the vibe of this playthrough so far, we have another playthrough that's almost exactly like this of Resident Evil 1 Remake. You guys should go check that out. We completed the game fully. If you want to see more of this guy, you can go check him out at G_Sen or just Sen on Twitch and YouTube. He does a lot of fighting game content. He brought that up earlier in this playthrough. If you guys found that really interesting, that's the channel to go to.
Obsessed. And
also check out Crouch Block. Crouch Block, that's his other channel where he does a lot of deep dive retrospectives. He did one on Resident Evil 4. You guys should go check that out.
See you guys later. Peace.